How do you stay awake in boring meetings? Feel free to answer that question if you want to in the chat or in the chat. Can you tell that I live on Zoom quite a bit? In the comments, go ahead and leave your response to how do you stay awake in boring meetings? And perhaps over time, the comments thread will be a list of good ideas. But in this video, I'm gonna specifically unpack 3 strategies that will help you stay awake in boring meetings and perhaps make your attendees also stay awake by creating more engaging, meaningful, compelling meetings. My name is Chad Littlefield. I get to work with some of the top organizations and leaders and educators on the planet to help them make connection and engagement really easy. And so I spend a lot of time in meetings. I spend a lot of time facilitating meetings. I spend a lot of time teaching people how to lead and facilitate meetings better. And so by the end of this video, some of the stuff that's in my brain from all these failures and successes will be in your brain. Let's get into it. So these 3 strategies that I'm going to teach you to stay awake in boring meetings could fall under the bucket of how to unmute strategically. And then I'm going to share my tax report with you, or my tax organizer with you, because it's quite an interesting thing to look at. And it is a way that I stayed awake in one of the most boring content areas on the planet, perhaps, taxes. Doing my own tax, or going over and preparing my own taxes to send off to our accountant. Oh my goodness, mind-numbingly boring, and I'll show you how I navigated that in a way that you can steal and use for yourself. And then the 4th meeting, really cool way to use both imagery and quotes to help stay awake in meetings. Number 1, strategically unmuting. Now, the whole world got a little experiment in remote work as COVID took over and we all operated in these pixelated contexts. And so unmute and going off mute and you're on mute took on a whole different meaning in that context. And I think whether you're in a remote meeting or you're in an in-person meeting, it's really valuable to think very strategically about how you mute and unmute. And so I learned over time facilitating a ton of meetings and workshops that the way that I would facilitate unmuting is once in a while we do like a everybody off mute little cheer and like create this cringy sound and like, okay, we don't want to do that too much. And so I learned how to strategically invite the entire group to type something in the chat, and then for inviting the group to look through the chat for something that they're curious about, and then unmute and ask that person a question, which then causes them to come off mute and answer that question. When we're meeting remotely, it's definitely a best practice to come on and off mute in a facilitated way, not in a totally haphazard way. Because when you do it totally haphazard, it creates lots of chaos, people talk over each other, etc. So if you're watching this though and you're like, meetings are just too boring to actually stay awake, like you just find yourself nodding off, I would think about and maybe even put a visual on your desk somewhere that signifies the unmute button. And pick a goal for yourself of how many times you're gonna press the unmute button. Now you literally don't need to, depending on the context, if it's a larger meeting and just the CEO is speaking the entire time or something, you might not actually come off mute and share something, but you might hear an idea and go send an email to a colleague or a boss. Or you might hear a concept and send an appreciation over to somebody. Or you might jot a text or a private message on the chat you're meeting at. Or you might write somebody a note and slide it to them in the meeting. The point is, how can you engage and connect in different ways to come off mute, even if it's not to the whole crowd? For me, that is one of the ways that shifts me from a place of consumption of a meeting that definitely puts me to sleep and switches me into this mindset of how can I contribute? How can I add to this meeting, even if it's not in the main line script, even if it's not happening in front of everybody? How can I use this meeting time to contribute meaningfully to the overarching aim, the overarching team, the overarching community, etc.? And for me, that keeps me awake. When I think about how I can contribute, I tend to not fall asleep so quickly. Number 2, I told you I was gonna share my tax organizer with you. Here are my taxes, sort of. So our CPA, who addresses redacted. So as I went through this, I found myself, after I was kind of done and gathering things on the computer, with a pen in one hand, just doodling a little corner of this page. And clearly my doodling got a little bit out of hand. There's nothing meaningful, there's no intentional, I guess there's a stick figure. I did add a stick figure there. Otherwise, this is just random doodling. And so for me, I've got a little bit of ADD, ADHD going on, undiagnosed. And so for me, to stay awake in meetings, sometimes just doodling is really, really useful for me. I don't even necessarily have to look. And I remember learning this in some of the educational psychology classes that I took in college. That we had a guest speaker one time, worked with kids with special needs, and she'd give out Play-Doh to everybody, just to have that tactile thing to move around, something physical to actually engage in. You'll notice that even as I'm recording this video, I'm at my standing desk. Standing makes a big difference. So if you're in a remote meeting context and you have the ability to stand, do it. If you have the ability to influence culture and actually change a weekly meeting to a weekly stand-up meeting, do it. Makes meetings so much more awake. Your brain loves the blood flow that happens here, as opposed to the blood flow that sort of doesn't happen all that much when you're sitting. The Surgeon General came out and said that sitting is the new smoking, right? The amount of time that we sit every day is like humans just weren't designed for. You think about cavemen and cavewomen hunting and gathering, and like the amount of work involved in just surviving in life. And now we've evolved to the point where we, like the movie WALL-E, we could literally just lay down in a bed and slurp our food through a straw and hardly do anything, and order groceries through our phone. And right, as convenience has increased in our life, we've become increasingly less active and increasingly more passive. And so if you can do things to make yourself a little bit more active, including standing, including playing with something, including doodling, it'd be really, really useful. And last but not least, this deck of cards, super nifty. So give this to your boss, or give this to whoever's running a meeting, or get it for yourself. But we designed this deck to inspire authentic conversations, to go beyond the surface. And so, and before, I'm not trying to sell you this. In fact, there's a free digital version accessible in the link below that you can print down and use in that way. If you want the actual deck shipped to you, there's links for that as well. But each card has a quote on one side and an image on another. And you know the phrase, a picture says 1,000 words? I think that's true. I also think that a quote says whatever it is that somebody's trying to say much more succinctly oftentimes. And so sometimes I'll begin a meeting with a client by laying out the cards quote side up on a table and inviting everybody to choose a quote that represents a belief they have, or an aspiration they have for this day or this meeting or this whatever. And when they share that, it's like they could have kind of baby blabbed that out or got around to it. But this person, either dead or alive, whoever they are, just set it in a really nice tight pocket. And that helps people stay awake. When any sort of attention switches, you'll notice even in this video, there's little moments where I go, and little drop cuts. Like those attention resets are designed to say, hey brain, we're still here. Hey brain, we're still here. And yet meetings, even though they're competing with Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and YouTube, meetings are slow. Conversation is one of the slowest ways to transmit information. And yet 98% of all meetings are speaking. I talk, you talk. I talk, you listen. I talk, I ask, you talk. Right? Back and forth. Just really, really slow. Amazon actually begins their meetings internally and they teach narrative writing at Amazon, because in their meetings, they start out with a half hour of reading an executive, up to a half hour of just reading an executive summary in silence together and then discussing it. It's like, what a quick way. That's like one giant quote. It's like, let's summarize all of this so we're all on the same page. We all got the data. We were able to visualize things. And then when we talk about it, holy smokes, that conversation, that meeting is way more productive. If you like this video, you will love this 2-minute clip on how to make virtual meetings and online learning fun. It's only 2 minutes. It's really fast paced, and you'll leave with some really great ideas, potentially forwardable to other people in your context and spheres that are leading meetings as well. I'm Chad Littlefield. I do think that you indeed rock. Have an awesome day.